Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at the top 3 performers for the Ultra League. Again, we already did this for the Great League last time around. I'm not gonna do it for the Master League because I don't have a Solga Leo as well as a Zygarde complete form, but today we're gonna take a look at the top 3 performers for the Ultra League. Those are not like the same as, for example, the ranking that you see on PvPoke. It's a different kind of tab that shows basically which Pokemon perform really good in the current meta. Unlike for the ranking, those Pokemon get basically tested against other teams, so yeah, for rankings of course against other Pokemon, here against other teams, so basically those are really good core breakers, really good Pokemon for most of the teams that you're going to encounter right now. And we're going to have here a very bulky team, I would say. We have the Guzzlord breaking the camera angle, we're going to have the Registeel, which of course is up there. Registeel is just really busted in terms of the stats that it has, and also we're going to have the Lantern, which I found kinda interesting. I didn't think that Lantern would be that high up there, but definitely an interesting Pokemon. Of course, we're testing it out together. They are not supposed to be in a team together like this, I would imagine, but it's actually working out pretty well, and it's definitely a team that also kinda makes some kind of sense. So let's see what they can actually do here. We're going to have the Registeel against the Giratina, which is a pretty weird matchup, because actually if you get the debuffs with Zap Cannon, which I feel like I got some decent ones here this time around, you're going to be able to win those matchups, which is kinda cool. And here, as you can see as well, the opponent doesn't really do that much damage with the Shadow Sneak either. I can still go for another Zap Cannon here. This Zap Cannon is coming through, going to get nearly the knockout, not quite yet. We don't get the debuff there, which I guess does not really matter too much. I don't think it would really change anything in terms of the matchup, and so we can still farm them down with our Guzzlord. We're going to have sadly some core breakers for this team. For example, Flying type Pokemon going to be a little bit tricky, like the Poliwrath in the lead. In the back it's going to be okay for you though. Here we're going to see the Greedent coming back in. I tried to swap out, but it does not work out. I decided to use a shield here, so I might be able to get some crunches off, but as you can see here, the opponent has a Tentacruel in the back, and they call it a good game there. Well, let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to have the Galvantula in the lead. This is going to be an okay lead for us. We can stay in for a little bit. We can actually stay in the entire time if we want to. But as you can see, the fast move of the opponent is resisted. Their charge moves are super effective, so it is something that's a little bit tricky to play around, but I kind of want to get the shield here from the opponent as well. We're going to get them insanely low, and with this we're going to put them into range for just one charge move of our Registeel. All charge moves of Registeel are going to be resisted, but luckily they just went for the cross poison, I think, which is kind of great for us because it does even less than, for example, the lunge here. But you can still get a knockout here for sure with a 1 focus blast, as this is going to be easily enough. But they actually use a shield, which I find kind of interesting. So apparently they're going to be insanely weak against the Registeel, as it seems like. But let's see what they're actually going to have in the back. We can actually swap out after this charge move, which is kind of huge. So if there's going to be something in the back here where we're going to still be fine with the rest of our team, which it is going to be the Jellicent, that's going to be great. So we're going to be able to swap out here. We can still keep the energy. We can clear the debuff. We have just straight up great matchups against this Pokemon. They decide to forfeit. Like literally, Jellicent has nowhere to go for this team. Like, where does it want to battle against? Against the Guzzlord, which completely hardwalls it. Against the Lantern, which has the, of course, electric type moves, which are going to be great for it. Or against the Registeel, which also has the Zap Cannon. So, like, against those Pokemon, like, it's kind of great to play against. Here we're going to actually encounter the Tentacruel, and I decided to swap out because my backline is really good against it. We don't get the debuff here, which would have been really cool, to be fair. Like, I definitely would have appreciated a debuff there, but it does not really matter too much. It's still going to be a great matchup for us. They get the debuff with this gold, which of course is going to be a little bit annoying, but Focus Blast would be already enough from this range for sure. Focus Blast is such a hard hitting move, but we can even take another Scald from the opponent. Even though we didn't get the debuff there, we're going to be able to still survive it, and we just see the power again from the Registeel. Being able to get to another move here and actually getting switch as well as shield advantage is just huge, but I make a ginormous mistake here, because this could not have been outrage. Like, I thought at this time as well, like, I'm not really playing well today, I have to say that, but like, this was not an outrage for sure, and I shouldn't have shielded. This would have been a resisted move, and against the opponent's Guzzlord, I would have appreciated to still have the shield left, but we can still most likely do something here. While our Pokemon in the back, the Lantern, does not really appreciate the matchup in general, we're still gonna get the opponent fairly low, and hopefully low enough that the Thunderbolt plus a little bit of spark damage will be enough to knock them out. They're gonna go for Crunch first, which is going to not get a debuff, which is kinda nice. They're gonna go for another Crunch, which also not gonna get the debuff. Of course, 30% chance is kinda unlikely to get a debuff from this move, but we can still go for the Thunderbolt. It just barely doesn't knock them out, and they survive with 1 HP. And this 1 HP is really important for the opponent. What is also important is that, of course, they're gonna get the debuff now, and so our serve is just barely not enough and they can farm us down. Literally losing by 1 HP from Pokemon that has like over 300 or something, like Gastrodon has an insane HP stat. But let's move on to the next one. We're going to encounter here the opponent's Sandslash. Sandslash is going to be an interesting one as they can go for the Focus Blast. The opponent is going to stay in here, which I find kind of interesting because they could have solved out for sure. Of course, they have super effective damage with a Drill Run, but from the normal Sandslash, 2 Drill Runs will not be enough to knock me out, and I will be even able to get to another move afterwards, unless the opponent wants to throw, which they most likely want to do. But we're going to be able to get a 2-shield advantage here, which is great. And so I decided to let this move go through. It's too risky for me to use a shield here, and I can just go into my Lantern, which is still going to do some neutral damage. Yes, of course, the Drill Run is going to be super effective against us, but we can still use our shields here now that we kind of gained prior. And we are going to use another one because super effective moves are kind of scary. And so basically everything we just worked for is completely gone. But the opponents decide to swap out now into their Giratina. And I thought of going for the Crunch here, which might be the right call as well. They have Dragon Breath, which is kind of annoying because the fast move of the Shadow Claw we would have been able to resist. But we could still go for the full farm down here, at least that's what I thought, but we're actually not going to be able to do so. They will get the knockout here, but it's going to be actually fine because now it's going to be a Lantern against an entire team. Let's see if Lantern can do something here. We knock out the Giratina already. In comes, let's see, it's going to be the Jellicent, and with this we can still just go for the Thunderbolt. Do around like 50% damage here, which is amazing, and so we can hit another one and this will guarantee a knockout. Bye bye Jellicent. In comes the Sandslash. Can we still win this game? It's going to be close though. They can go for their own charge move, which is going to be the Drill Run. We can still survive this just barely here. I can only get to one move, which is going to be this Thunderbolt. Can we still win this game? It's going to be so close, but yes, Lantern will win this one. Let's see what they have next. We're going to have the Poliwrath, and here we're going to start basically with the worst possible Pokemon. There was a match, I don't know if it's in there, I didn't put all the battles in there because I did like 3 sets with this. There was definitely a game where I also had a Poliwrath lead, and I stayed in. This was like the first time I encountered it. And I have to say that this was something that I would not do. If you encounter a Poliwrath lead with this team, swap out. Like the Regi's still going to be fine here. The opponent got a debuff already with a Scald. My first Zapcan didn't get a debuff. My second Zapcan didn't get a debuff, which actually would have made this matchup way more different in my opinion. If I got one early on, I think I would have been able to even get to another charge move here. But like this is the thing as well. I saw this well with the video earlier. Of course, like people say, oh, you complain too much about like debuff chances. But like this is the thing as well. You kind of have to talk a little bit about it because basically things completely can shift by a debuff. And if you just go completely under odds, like if you complain like every time you basically go for a move you don't get debuff, but like if you go for 2 66% chance debuff moves back to back basically there and you don't get one while the opponent gets one with 50% and it completely flips the matchup, then this is of course something important to note, and this is going to be something that's going to change the matchup. It is just something that you kind of, I don't know, like it's something that is a little bit more talked about there. Like this is completely changing the performance of a team if you get a debuff or not. And so yeah, it's kind of a thing there as well. Like this is the thing as well. Like of course those chances are also part of the main series games. Not in the way they kind of get translated here in Pokemon Go, but for example, there's the move Rock Slide that is also in Pokemon Go that can flinch the opponent, I think, by a 30% chance in the main series games, and this can literally shift matchups, and this is something that I also not say, oh yeah, okay, he's talking about the Rock Slide flinch, this doesn't really matter or whatever. Like, it does matter a lot if you get a debuff or not, so like, yeah, I don't know, here we're going to lose because of this most likely. Let's take a look at the next opponent. We will encounter Gustload against Jellicent, actually a legend already. Also know them from Twitter, so shoutouts to you. Great lead, great save swap, and goodbye there. Next opponent, we will be able to see a Charizard in the lead. And here we're gonna be able to also stay in for a little bit. I don't like this one. I really don't like this one because the lead is neutral. Like the lead is something that you will be able to win usually in the 2-shield scenario. So like it's actually kind of decent for you. It's not as great, I think, in the 0 and the 1 shields, but like as long as you basically go for 2 shields, you're going to be fine. But the issue is, I would have rather had this Pokemon onto my Lantern. Like this is literally the prime thing that the Lantern wants to face, and I have to say as well, for whatever reason, I did not encounter a single Talonflame. Like, at least as far as I remember, maybe I'm completely wrong with that as well, but at least I don't recall that I actually faced a Talonflame with this team, and like I would have 3 good answers for Talonflame. Okay, like 2 good answers for Talonflame. You can still get shields with the Registeel because Zepcan is super effective, so like it's not the worst answer either. But you know what I mean, like it's definitely something interesting. You know what's also something interesting? Look at this, the opponent makes no call basically. They're going to just stay in here and we're going to be able to still go for the Focus Blast, as they're going to still be in a range where, yeah, I can still knock them out for sure, but they can just go for the Frenzy Plant, which is still chunking a little bit, and they're going to make a great call now because they're going to catch the move onto their Giratina, which is going to be a double resisted Focus Blast. They're still running the first move of the Shadow Claw here, which is a little bit more annoying now, because they're going to generate energy a little bit faster. But apparently they're going to have Ancient Power, that's why they go for the Dragon Claw now, which is kind of fine for us. You can go for the Zepcan, we have to hope for the debuff. Do we get the debuff here? We do get the debuff. I feel like I got it kind of in a normal amount basically. We're going to see the opponent going for the Dragon Claw here. This is going to be okay for us, but what you see here, what I'm doing, is basically I'm going to go up to 100 energy, and I'm not going to throw a Thunderbolt against the opponent's Giratina, because I always need to have a Thunderbolt stored for if they want to swap into their Venusaur, and they do exactly this, and so I can knock them out. This was the scary part of it, and now I should be kind of fine for the end, because we're already very long in this matchup here, and we can see that the Dragon Claw is coming through. I can still try to reach a Thunderbolt, I can still go for another Dragon Claw here. It's still not gonna knock me out, but I will be able to reach a Thunderbolt. The time is ticking down there, and this Thunderbolt will be enough to knock them out, and Lantern is really the MVP of this team. I have to say, definitely, like, Lantern was really strong. Registeel, of course, was really strong. Here, I'm forced to go into my Lantern, by the way, like, if you were wondering why I did this. In comes a Cresselia with the fast move of Confusion, which kind of confused me a little bit, but interesting choice there. But yeah, I had to go into my Lantern because for me, the best answer for the opponent's Steelix is going to be my own Registeel. So I kind of have to keep this one alive, and so I had to go into my Save here of the Lantern instead. But yeah, we can go for a Surf, trying to get a shield from the opponent. Did not work out. I can still go for the Thunderbolt next, which is going to be able to do some decent damage. Not enough, sadly, and I'm forced to go into my Registeel because if I went into my other Pokemon, my Gustlord, they're very likely, yeah, going to have the Moonblast here as expected, but I'm also going to be able to get a ton of energy. And very luckily here, the opponent is actually deciding to swap into their Steelix. And so I can still go for the Focus Blast. Don't know why they did this. I outspeed the opponent by quite a bit. They need like 65 energy, I need 75 energy. But they generate, I think, like, is it like 3 a turn or something? While I generate 5 a turn, which is kind of nice. So we're definitely going to outspeed them a lot of times. But also, they're going to still be able to survive one, which is kind of awkward. And I just have to hope they're not going to bait me here and they just go straight for the Earthquake. Let's see what they're going to do next. They are going to go ahead and go for the Psychic Fangs. And at this point, I thought already, I could just go for this move and swap out afterwards, because I should be fine here. But I was risking a little bit too much. I thought I could get a little bit more energy. I wanted to swap out after one more Dragon Tail, but they can still go for the Earthquake. And this was a mistake by me, for sure. But they swap out now into the Giratina. And because I know that I am ahead on energy here by a little bit, actually by 3 turns now, I know that I can still go for my Dragon Claw in time and will be able to knock them out before they can get to their own Dragon Claw. But in hindsight, I guess a Crunch mode would have been a little bit better for me. We will see the Dragon Claw coming through, gonna get the knockout, and it's going to be a tie. Honestly, I feel like this was a winnable game again, but I kind of screwed this one up myself, like nothing that was like really wrong otherwise, but like it was just me, to be fair. Great play by the opponent here, catching the Dragon Claw onto a Galarian Weezing is a very smart play, but let's see what we can do. We can swap out into a Registeel and they go straight for a charge move, being the Overheat immediately. It definitely does hurt a little bit, but luckily you can still get a debuff here with the Zap Cannon, which is going to be amazing, as I can now just try to get ahead and go for another Zap Cannon to knock them out. Let's see, the Overheat is coming through. They're going to get me fairly low, and they also have a CMP tie now, but I know that this is not an Overheat. This can only be the Brutal Swing, and so I can let this move go through. Gonna get the knockout here with the Zap Cannon, boom, and I can realign. And we're gonna see a Charizard. At least, like, no Talonflame here today, especially as this already is the final battle for today. But at least we're going to encounter some Charizards, which I guess kind of works out as well. We will see the Swampert coming back in. I can go for the Surf. The Surf is going to be able to get a ton of damage onto them. And they still have 2 shields left, but I make a mistake here. I should have most likely used the shield. They decided to go for the Earthquake. I can still no-shield this one, I guess. But this was a little bit risky because I think I maybe should have shielded this one. but I guess we can still actually farm them down, which I didn't expect that this would happen against the Swampert. I'm very certain I should have been able to get to still a charge move there, but I'm totally okay with that. I still go for one charge move here, which is kind of unnecessary because spark damage after the buff actually will be able to just farm them all the way down. So Lantern is honestly a really solid Pokemon for the Ultra League. Would recommend you to try it out. These are the top 3 performers for the Ultra League. Who are the top 3 performers for your Ultra League team? So let me know in the comment section. This is going to be it for this video, and I see you then. Bye bye.